the fuck on the car, or you're
That's
fucking
fucking
arrested.
I'm not.
Get
I'm
the
not doing
fuck on.
nothing. That's
Get the
assault.
fuck on the car.
Get the fuck out of our city!
A man runs into his own home in Minneapolis, desperate to escape federal agents. Inside, his pregnant wife and children wait. Within seconds, ICE agents fire a shot, striking him in the leg. The family's screams echo as they dial 911, not for help from criminals, but from the very people supposed to enforce the law. This is not a scene from a dystopian movie. This is America in January 2026, and it is happening right now on the streets of Minneapolis, Minnesota. What we are witnessing across the United States represents one of the most dramatic expansions of immigration enforcement in modern American history. President Donald Trump, in his second term, allocated $30 billion from a recently passed bill specifically to hire 10,000 additional immigration and customs enforcement agents. This is documented government spending directed toward a massive expansion of ICE's street-level enforcement capabilities, with agents deployed directly onto American streets for immigration operations. To understand this moment, we need to know what ICE actually is. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is a young federal agency that did not exist before 2003. It was created in the immediate aftermath of September 11th, 2001, as part of the largest government reorganization since the Department of Defense in 1947. When Congress passed the Homeland Security Act in November 2002, it created the Department of Homeland Security, which opened on March 1st, 2003, absorbing 22 different agencies. The old Immigration and Naturalization Service and U.S. Customs Service were dissolved and split into three entities: U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services for benefits, U.S. Customs and Border Protection for borders, and ICE for interior enforcement, investigations, and removals. From 2003 until now, ICE grew substantially. Enforcement priorities shifted across administrations. Under President Obama, the focus was primarily on criminals with serious convictions. Under Trump's first term, enforcement broadened significantly. But what we are seeing in 2025 and 2026 is unprecedented in scale. The current expansion has been fueled by executive actions, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act of 2025, and billions in new funding. As of January 2026, ICE detention reached historic highs, with approximately 69,000 people held daily, with plans to triple this capacity. In 2025 alone, over 600,000 formal deportations were executed. High-profile raids, militarized operations, and shootings have sparked nationwide protests and renewed calls to abolish ICE entirely. Now, let me detail what has actually happened in Minneapolis. On January 14th, 2026, exactly 1 week after another fatal ICE shooting, federal law enforcement shot a man in the leg. According to the Department of Homeland Security, officers were conducting a targeted traffic stop of a person illegally in the United States from Venezuela. DHS claims the individual escaped in his vehicle, crashed into a parked car, then fled on foot. The official account states the officer caught up and attempted to apprehend him when he began to resist violently. DHS says 2 additional people then emerged from a nearby apartment and attacked the officer with a shovel and broom handle. During this attack, the original subject allegedly broke free and began striking the officer, at which point the officer fired what DHS calls a defensive shot, hitting the man in the leg. All 3 individuals then ran inside the apartment and barricaded themselves. Both the officer and the shot individual were hospitalized. The city of Minneapolis confirmed a man was shot and taken to hospital for non-life-threatening injuries, but city officials demanded ICE leave immediately, declaring they will stand by immigrant and refugee communities. Mayor Jacob Frey accused federal officers of creating chaos across the state. This incident occurred exactly 1 week after 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good was shot and killed by an ICE agent in Minneapolis. Federal officials accused Good of trying to run over agents with her car, but Mayor Frey stated the agent acted recklessly. Videos show ICE agents approaching a car in the middle of the street. As the car attempts to drive away, one agent points his gun at the driver and at least 2 shots are heard. The FBI is investigating. What makes the Renee Good shooting particularly significant is what happened afterward. In video footage, a U.S. citizen encounters ICE agents, stops his car, exits, and begins blowing a whistle, a lawful act protected by the First Amendment. An ICE agent approaches him. The man backs away, does not interfere, does not block agents, and makes no physical contact. Despite this, the agent says directly, "Do you think this is a big game? Is this a game to you guys? That's why that lady got hurt the other day." This statement appears to contradict the official justification for the shooting. The agent is not saying Renee Good was shot because she posed an immediate deadly threat, but because people were drawing attention to ICE's presence, which would not constitute lawful justification for using deadly force. Beyond these shootings, multiple incidents have been documented on video. ICE agents are shown crashing into civilian vehicles on city streets to make arrests. Residents scream he did nothing wrong as federal agents ram cars, smash windows, and drag people out in broad daylight. In another incident, ICE agents violently detained and arrested a U.S. citizen for one specific reason. He refused to prove his citizenship when asked. The video of this arrest is particularly detailed. It shows agents immediately escalating to physical force against a man standing with his hands up, repeatedly saying, "I'm not doing anything." Agents shove him, force him against his car, and begin searching without a warrant. No crime is articulated, no warrant is presented, no probable cause is established. An agent falsely claims that's assault while actively assaulting a complying U.S. citizen. Moments later, the agent admits the truth, and all we needed was your ID, openly acknowledging this was unlawful detention based solely on refusal to produce identification. Under U.S. constitutional law, citizens are not required to carry identification or prove citizenship on demand without reasonable suspicion of a crime. The Fourth Amendment protects against unreasonable searches and seizures. The agent then threatens, "Don't move or you will be fucking tased." The man calmly responds he is not moving. The agent escalates. "You're a fucking bitch and you're gonna learn the hard way." This is a direct threat of violence against a U.S. citizen whose hands are already behind his back. Agent searches pockets, repeating, "I just asked you for an ID," as if this justifies the Fourth Amendment violation. Then the agent announces he has a gun on him. Wouldn't you look at that? The man immediately responds, "A fully registered firearm because I'm a U.S. citizen." Minnesota is a concealed carry state. The agent casually tosses the firearm onto the car after removing the magazine. By this point, agents have removed his wallet but still do not check his ID and continue the arrest. When asked what crime he committed, the agent deflects, "We're going to talk about that when we get in the car," apparently aware he is on camera and cannot articulate a lawful reason. Only then do agents begin changing their story, claiming the man reached for something. The man corrects them. He reached for his whistle. The video appears to show agents retroactively inventing justification for an unlawful arrest. Additional footage shows agents walking down a public sidewalk in Minneapolis. A man stands there doing nothing except existing in public space. An agent uses both hands to shove him off the sidewalk toward the street, then casually walks away. Moments later, another person is pushed by an agent into the street directly in front of a moving car. These are acts of assault, use of force without legal justification, and reckless endangerment. In Clearwater, Minnesota, video shows agents waiting outside a men's restroom inside a truck repair shop, pulling people out without identifying themselves. Around 3,000 ICE officers have been deployed to Minnesota over recent weeks. The scale is unprecedented. According to newly published ICE detention data, 92% of ICE detention growth in fiscal year 2026 has been driven by immigrants with no criminal convictions whatsoever. The current detention population stands at a record high of 68,990 individuals. The political response has been sharply divided. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz urged President Trump to end what he calls the occupation of ICE officers in the state, stating, "Angry is not a strong enough word." Minneapolis officials have repeatedly demanded ICE leave immediately. The FBI is investigating both shooting incidents. Republican Representative Kristen Robbins posted that Governor Walz could prevent these incidents if he allowed federal authorities to pick up individuals at jails and courthouses rather than forcing officers to track them through neighborhoods. U.S. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche characterized events in Minnesota as an insurrection. The Trump administration has defended operations vigorously. Official state enforcement focuses on criminals and that agents operate under U.S. law. The Department of Homeland Security has called comparisons between ICE and Nazi-era forces sickening and disgusting, arguing such rhetoric endangers agents. Assaults on ICE agents have increased by 413% since 2025. This brings us to the comparisons dominating public discourse. Critics have drawn parallels between current ICE tactics and Nazi Germany's Gestapo, SS, and SA forces in the 1930s and 1940s. These are rhetorical and political comparisons, not historical claims of direct lineage. The Gestapo was Nazi Germany's secret state police, formed in 1933, operating as a tool for warrantless arrests, indefinite detentions, and enforcing racial purity without judicial oversight. Critics argue ICE mirrors these tactics through militarized raids without warrants, family separations, and operations in unmarked vehicles. Representative Jim McGovern called ICE a secret police force using Gestapo-like tactics. Joe Rogan asked whether ICE agents are becoming like the Gestapo, demanding papers from Americans. Defenders strongly reject these comparisons, emphasizing ICE operates under U.S. law with oversight and that deportation differs fundamentally from genocide. The Holocaust resulted in systematic murder of 6 million Jews and millions of others. ICE executed approximately 600,000 deportations in 2025. Holocaust scholars note Nazi analogies reflect modern anxiety about American authoritarianism, but risk diluting historical reality. Similar enforcement tactics existed under previous administrations, though the current scale represents significant escalation. What remains clear is that ICE operations have involved use of force against both undocumented immigrants and U.S. citizens, resulted in at least one confirmed death and multiple injuries, and raised serious constitutional questions about Fourth and First Amendment protections. The FBI is investigating multiple incidents. The political debate has become central to the 2026 midterm elections, with polls showing 46% of Americans now support curbing or abolishing ICE entirely. This is where we stand as of January 15, 2026. Federal immigration enforcement has expanded to unprecedented levels. Documented incidents show force being used in ways that raise legal and constitutional questions. Political leaders are deeply divided, and the American public watches as their cities become battlegrounds in a conflict over who belongs in this country and what methods are acceptable to enforce that determination.